We are recording. Who has a win they'd like to share today? I just started the recording, guys. You got to tell us somebody won something, okay?
Look,
What
sugar
what
everything.
what
I'm tired.
what good happened over the last week?
I have a win.
Hello, Yelena.
And I'm out and about. That's why I don't have my camera on. But
Okay, all right,
um,
that's fine.
um, I've been getting a lot of business lately, so I'm starting to get my schedule filled. And this week I have two dogs boarding and two others that I'm taking care of at their homes. So, and then next week I also have another two. So
So
it's starting
Yelena,
to work.
Yelena, business is good. Busy is good.
Yes.
Absolutely. And I congratulations.
Thank
It
you.
sounds like things are working, so you're doing things right.
Hopefully, yes.
Hope, no, there's no hoping about it. You're doing it right. You're good. You're good. Anyone else? Who else has got something to share? A win, a challenge, maybe. Who's anybody have a challenge?
I've got somewhat of a win, Frank.
Go ahead, Brad.
So I've got one main customer. Well, I've got quite a few customers, but one that I spend a lot of time with, and I plant about 10,000 flowers in hopes that they bloom by the 4th of July party, and they're all in bloom. So it's happening, and I'm happy. They're happy. The world is good.
Yeah, that's nice. So, Brad, tell everybody in the room what you do for a living.
Well, I do like specialty gardening, more or less. And I kind of see it as companionship at the same time because I do a lot of work with elderly folks. So I also do companion work with some dementia patients. So I've kind of tied the two together. And some of the customers don't realize that I tied the two together, but I do and offer companionship and gardening. So
Very, very cool. Very cool. And I'm sure they appreciate it. And look, it sounds like you did it right because they're blooming at the right time.
yeah.
So I've got a project going on that I want to let you guys know about. So most of us know and have heard about the book Think and Grow Rich that Napoleon Hill wrote. I'm putting my training focus and my philosophy on a book that he wrote later in life called The Science of Personal Achievement. And beginning this week, actually next week, I guess, because this week's already done with my recording. On my YouTube channel, I will be sharing the 17 success principles as they're described in the Science of Personal Achievement. And I'm going to do it, it's going to be like a focus on the principle, and then it's going to be a real life, true story, current of someone who used that principle to achieve their success, and then some takeaways from that story, and finishing up with an action step or a challenge for people to do over the next week. So I'm going to do a 17-week process or project. Actually, it's going to be 18 weeks, I think. And if you guys want to be part of that, you can witness that if you just go to YouTube and type in my name, Frank Menard. I will pop up, and you'll be able to see my weekly videos. I usually record every Tuesday. It usually posts every Wednesday morning, and then I post it on Lynn's Facebook site for her folks on Monday mornings the following week. But this is a project. My entire focus in my coaching commitment to help people to inspire and to positively impact their lives is to follow this philosophy and help them understand how it works and that it still works today. It wasn't just back in the 50s or 60s when this book was written. I think it was written in 1966. And it was later in Napoleon Hill's life. And the principles grew from 13. So in Think and Grow Rich, there were 13 principles. And by the time Napoleon died in 1970, after his collaboration with W. Clement Stone, who was a big insurance tycoon, they worked together. Actually, Stone encouraged Napoleon to come out of retirement, and they traveled the country. I think it was 1960. They traveled the country teaching salespeople how to use the principles in their sales business. And they were very successful at doing that. So eventually, between Stone and Hill, they grew the foundational principles from 13 to 17. And that's all described in the book, The Science of Personal Achievement. I'll see if I can angle this so you guys can see it. That's what it looks like. So it's a book I would highly recommend. It's kind of written like a parable. It's a great story, and all the principles are there and how to implement them. So that's where my focus is. So if you want to join me on YouTube, please do. All you have to do is subscribe, and you get the recording every time we put it out there. And with that, does anyone else have anything to share? Toby Beth, you turned your camera off. You must be hiding. Is John behind you?
No, I'm eating dinner.
Well, we don't mind. We can watch you eat. We make fun of the spinach in your teeth and all that good stuff.
Nobody needs to see that.
So, good morning. Hello, Emmanuel. How are you?
I'm fine. How are you?
I'm doing well. How's the weather up in New Hampshire today?
Yeah, 82.
82. Whew.
Yes.
Yeah, we're at 85 in Florida, so you're almost as warm as we are right now.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. Don't melt up there. I know how you New Englanders are.
Oh, yeah.
Get used to that cold weather. All right,
hmm
so I am going to share my screen. We are starting where we left off last week. We're beginning chapter 5. Can you all see that okay? Yep, all right.
Hello.
So the confession continues. So, of course, as we do every week, I'm the devil and I need somebody to play the part of Napoleon Hill. So, who would like to read for Napoleon Hill tonight? All we need is a digital hand or a real hand. Bindu, you're it. All right, so here we go. Looks like we're going to start with Napoleon's question. Go ahead, Bindu.
If this confession of yours stopped right here, your statement would be sound. But fortunately for millions of your victims who will gain their release because of your confession, this interview will continue until you have supplied me with the weapon by which you will eventually be restrained from domination of people through their fears and superstitions. Remember, Your Majesty, your confession has just begun. After I wring from you a description of the methods by which you control people, I will force you also to give the formula by which your control can be broken at will. It is true, I shall not remain here long enough to defeat you, but the published word I leave behind me will be deathless because it will consist of truth. You fear the opposition of no individual because you know it will be short, but you do fear truth. You fear truth and nothing else for the reason it is slowly but definitely giving human beings freedom from all manner of fear. Without the weapon of fear, you would be helpless and entirely unable to control any human being. Is it true or false?
All right, so Len, I saw your hand go up, so I'll let you read the portions where Sharon Lecter gives her comments on what was just read.
It is true, that part. That's where you
Yes,
want me?
Yeah.
yes,
Okay.
yes, ma'am.
It is true. I shall not remain here long enough to defeat you, but the published word I leave behind me will be deathless because it will consist the truth. Indeed, Napoleon Hill passed away in 1970, and this work being published in 2011 becomes deathless.
Thank you, Lynn. Yeah, so for those of you who don't know, the book Outwitting the Devil was written about the same time as Think and Grow Rich. Actually, I think it was written before Think and Grow Rich. And Napoleon's Hill, because of the way the mentality of that day back in that era, she was worried about the consequences that would be bestowed upon Napoleon and his family, talking about an interview with the devil. It wasn't something that was very popular back then. So this actually didn't get published until after Napoleon's death. And some would say that this was probably one of the best books that he wrote because of what it exposes us to in the thought process of what they were thinking back then. So here we go. I am the devil. I have no alternative but to admit that what you say is true. Go ahead, Napoleon.
Now that we understand each other, let us go ahead with your confession. But before we continue, I may as well take time out to do a little boasting on my own account. Now that you have had your fling at it, I will confine myself to one question, the answer to which will give me all the satisfaction I want. Is it Is it not true that you control only the minds of those who have allowed the drifting habit to be fixed upon them?
Yes, that is true. I have already admitted this truth in a dozen or more different ways. Why do you tantalize me by repeating the question?
There is power in repetition. I'm forcing you to repeat the highlights of your confession in as many different ways as possible so your victims may check this interview and determine its soundness by their own experiences with you. That is one of my little tricks. Do you approve my method?
You couldn't be setting a trap for me for the purpose of doing some more boasting, could you?
I'm asking the questions and you are doing the answering. Go ahead now and confess why you are powerless to stop me from forcing this confession from you. I want your confession for aid and comfort to victims of yours, whom I intend to release from your
All right, Bindo's connection is a little shaky today, maybe because of the rain. So
control the moment they read your confession.
there we go. I am powerless to influence or control you because you have found the secret approach to my kingdom. You know that I exist only in the minds of people who have fears. You know that I control only the drifters who neglect to use their own minds. You know that my hell is here on earth and not in the world that comes from after death. And you know also that drifters supply all the fire I use in my hell. You know that I am a principle or form of energy which expresses the negative side of matter and energy, and that I am not a person with a forked tongue and a spiked tail. You have become my master because you have mastered all of your fears. Lastly, you know that you can release all of my earthbound victims whom you contact, and this definite knowledge is the blow with which you will deal me the greatest damage. I cannot control you because you have discovered your own mind and you have taken charge of it. There now, Mr. Earthbound, that confession should feed your vanity to the bursting point. Guys, I'm going to stop share right here and I want to talk about that little section. So, what we just heard the devil confess to was that Napoleon had broken his power over drifters and over himself because he took charge of his own mind. He took control. And this has a personal meaning for me, especially today. I had a coaching session with a young lady today who's a relatively new real estate agent, and we talked about taking control of your own mind. Things happened in her past, and she was still living in the past, and she was still uh, struggling with trying to be who she could be because of what had happened in the past. And so, I told the story. Napoleon tells a story in his book, Think and Grow Rich, about we're all born with two envelopes. Two envelopes are tucked into our swaddle, so to speak, when we're born. And one envelope gives us the opportunity to take control of our own mind. And the other envelope gives us the opportunity to neglect that control, right? And so if you accept control of your own mind, then you get to ride up the right side of the river, which is going forth to the north, so to speak, towards wealth and accomplishment. And yet, if you choose to neglect your taking charge of your mind, or you allow somebody else to, regardless, if you neglect taking charge of your own mind, somebody else is going to step in and take charge of it for you. And in that case, you flow south on the river, which takes you to misery and poverty. But the choice is yours. Here's the challenge. We don't get to make that choice when we're born, right? Because we don't have the capability to make decisions until after we've been exposed to the environment that we live in. Now, that could be a good, a positive environment. It could be a bad, negative environment. But either way, we don't get to start to make choices until what age? At what age do you think we get to make our own, start to make our own choices? Anybody?
Probably going to be young, probably 7. You're making
Okay.
small choices, but I'd
Making
say
small
7.
choices. Yeah. Okay. Lynn?
Well, I've heard before as young as 3.
Okay. All right. So I've always considered that really until we become like an adolescent, so probably like around 10 or 11, when we start to understand the choices that we make and that there are consequences to those choices, that we really start to take control. I don't know. I think the answer is different for everyone. But at the end of the day, can you imagine that some people don't start making their own choices until they're 20 or 30 or even 40? Go ahead, Lynn.
I believe that there's some people that never ever make their own choices.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's just something. And then
Yeah.
it goes back to something my mom used to always say when we were younger. She would always say, some are born awake, others wake later on in their life, and some never wake up in this lifetime. And Lynn, don't waste time because
Yeah. I mean, if you think about it, why wasn't this taught in school? Right. So we all probably began school sometime around the age of 5, 6 years old, depending on when you were born and how the school system worked where you lived. But none of this stuff was ever talked about when you were in school about making decisions. That was one of the things that Napoleon really expressed in a lot of his writings. In Think and Grow Rich, he talks about, hey, we could cut the amount of time for someone to learn all they needed to know from school to less than half if we would implement the philosophy and the principles that he was proposing at that time. If we would just teach people to take control of their own minds and make their own decisions. Lynn, is your hand up again? Did you have something else to add?
no, I have something else to add, and it's just a thought. You know, you could go cancel, cancel. It's just my own personal thought. I was raised in a French Catholic school when I was younger with the nuns, and I found that some of these principles were in there. Not everything, but there were some of those principles, and it came with the religion part of it. That's all
Yeah.
I have to say.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So some of it might have been shared, but with a different twist, right? Toby Beth.
Going a different way.
Of course you
I
are.
I challenge this whole theory about at what age do you begin making choices. I believe that babies, infants, are already making choices. They're making the choice to cry, to let somebody know that they need something. They're hungry, they're wet, they're dirty, they don't like their surroundings. They're making the choice. They're not conscious of the choice, of course. So this begs the question, is the question about how old are you when you begin to make choices? Is that consciously or subconsciously? So that's my challenge on this question.
Yeah, yeah, and that's a great, perspective. So at what point do you actually make the choices? When are you capable? And I think I tend to agree that we're probably capable of certain actions at a very elementary level at a very young age. As you were sharing that, Toby Beth, I'm remembering a story that Napoleon shared about there were two brothers. They were raised by an alcoholic father. And later in life, one of them was a teetotaler who never drank, and the other was an alcoholic, just like his father. And when they were interviewed, they were asked, "So why are you the way you are?" And they both responded with identical answers. "I was raised by an alcoholic. How would you expect me to be?" Right? So that's a matter of people in the same environment making different choices. And I think the story, at least the way I want to try to present it here, is every opportunity to make a decision gives us an opportunity to choose a direction. And if you choose not to take control of that and not take action on that, then you're choosing to let someone else make that decision for you. Whereas if you choose to take that action and make a decision that would be in your favor, you get to choose that as well. They're both, everything's about choices. What are the choices that we're making each and every single day? The coaching client I had today, we talked about diet. She's struggling with being overweight. She's struggled with it before. She's defeated it before. And now it's back again. And it's all about choices. I mean, losing weight is not difficult. It's relatively easy. Exercise and eat right. It's relatively easy to exercise and eat right. But making the decision and being aware and committing to the action is hard. Being persistent is hard, right? So we get to make choices. I could be drinking a glass of wine right now. Instead, I'm drinking a bottle of water. That's a choice, right? It's a professional choice. I represent a professional organization. I should not be sitting here having a glass of wine. I do on my personal book studies often. Sorry, but this, I'm representing Napoleon Hill Institute here, so it's different. So I get to make that choice. So when you find yourself going through your day, give thought to what are the choices that you're making and how are those choices affecting you and perhaps other people. Lynn, I saw your hand up for a minute there. Go for it.
Well, I think it was going back, if I can just remember my thoughts again, of the choices, at what age. And I agree with Toby Beth, when you're born and that. However, the consciously, when it's right or wrong, that's the difference, is when is it right and when is it wrong. I wish I'd had known all of this work when my kids were younger, babies. I think I would have raised them totally different. I would have had different thoughts and something different. I know that our grandson, when he came over, because we traveled a lot, and Mario's a joker. He really likes to joke. And sometimes you wonder, did that just go over me or did he really say that? That's how Mario is at times. Well, when you do that with kids, it confuses them. And I remember the oldest one, he'd come over and he was 2 years old. And there was one time, I guess Mario said something to him. He was only two. And the next day when he came back, he said, goes right up to Mario and he said, "Now I know you were just joking. That's okay. That really wasn't what it was, just a joke." So that's where the consciousness comes in, for my opinion, is knowing the difference. Was it wrong or was it right? Is it okay to do this? Is it not okay to do this?
Yeah. Yeah.
And he
Great,
was
great.
only 2 years old at that time. And that's why I said the age of 3 is when you start learning. And it all depends, like, of the parents and who's teaching them all those different things. That's all I had to say.
So Lynn, thank you for that perspective. And something that you just said struck me. Learning. And when we think about learning, I agree 100% with Toby Beth. We begin learning at birth, right? But here's the challenge I would throw out there. The subconscious mind is there at birth. And the environment that we live in, the input that we have from our families, everything that we learn during those early years, whatever range you want to give that, is fed to us by someone else. right? So I think the better question is, when does the conscious mind begin to take effect? You see, you have a conscious mind, you have a subconscious mind. And here's the difference. Subconscious mind has absolutely no control over decisions. It must do what it's told. So I'm going to say, my opinion, roughly 3 to 5 years of our life at the beginning are fed into our conscious mind by other people, family, relatives, neighborhoods, whatever. And it's not until we perhaps get into school and start to learn from a foundational perspective that we begin to grow our conscious mind and make decisions about things. The challenge is the ammunition that we're using to make decisions about things came from those first 5 or 6 years of people putting in their input, right? And so at some point, I guess we would call it adolescence or maturity for some people, we get to realize, wait a minute, just because grandma said that was that way all the time, think about prejudice, right? During the era of time when there was a lot of prejudice, that was actually taught. It was lived in an environment where there was a lot of prejudice. So as young people were growing of age, what did they think? They thought the same thing that everybody else did, that they were taught that this is right, right? And it's really, really challenging to change that view. Go ahead, Toby Beth.
In essence, what you're talking about is the fundamentals of the belief system, and when the belief systems start to formulate in that mind. Uh, I mean, I don't want to use the word guilty, but for lack of a better word, like you, Lynn, you know, we have this belief system as a young parent, as a new parent, that we're taught. Our belief system is that we are to care for this child, provide them food and water and comfort and dry and what have you. And so I mean, this is really backdoor stuff, but I mean, psychologically, we're teaching our infant children to be dependent upon somebody else for basic necessities from the word go because, well, they can't do it yet. And I get that. So at what point does the mind go from, hey, I don't need you to provide me with warmth. I can provide my own warmth. So for me as a parent, when the kids were little, I taught them independence. We call it independence, right? We want our children to be independent of us. So I would prepare like their bottles, their juice or their milk or their whatever. I'd stick it in the fridge. And they would come to me, Baba, whatever, and they, "Psh, the fridge is over there. I'm not waiting on you." So there's some structure of independence, but there's still, I think, and I agree with you, Frank, you know, that decision-making process starts from a very, very negative cognitive age.
Yeah.
They just don't know that it's already started until they know it started.
Yeah, you're talking about. I'm remembering when the first time I was left alone, my wife and I were left alone with our granddaughter, and she would go to the refrigerator and she would say door, door. What does she want? She wanted milk. It was in the door. And so whenever she wanted milk from her parents, she would say door, right? And so I mean, just think about that whole communicative process. And they know what they want, they don't know how to express it. But at some point in time, of course, now she's almost 8 years old, so she's now starting to express opinions and give her thoughts on things and disagreeing with things. And all of that is part of the learning process. But I think the point here is if we don't ever learn how to take control of our own minds, if we don't ever accept that control, then for your entire life, somebody else is going to make your decisions for you. So it's literally a choice to go against the grain. And that's your responsibility as an individual to do that. So, Len, we got a little thing here from from Sharon Lecter. I'm going to share my screen if I get my cursor in the right place, and we'll start back here. All right, go ahead, Len.
Oh,
Says the devil.
says the devil, I cannot control you because you have discovered your mind, your own mind, and you have taken charge of it. This definite knowledge is the blow with which you will deal me the greatest damage.
So the devil cannot control you because you've discovered your own mind.
You know, I have something to say.
Go ahead, Len.
I know when I was younger, I had my own mind. I know I did. And it was really hard on my parents. And as I'm reading this, you know, I can see it. I was called like a rebel from the time I was little, you know? And yeah, and I moved out of the house. Yeah, there was so many things, and I had great parents, but there was a lot of things that I, at a young age,
So
it is,
listen to what you just did, Len, right? So you made decisions at a very young age.
yeah,
And with that, you were labeled a rebel,
I was.
right? It's a
At four
label.
years old, I packed a suitcase and I left, and they watched me. How far would I walk? And I wasn't coming back, so they came to get me.
It's funny. My daughter did the same thing. I think she was like 5 or 6 years old. She says, I've had enough of this. She packed her bag. We just waved at her. She's going down the street. But here's the thing. When you're different, when you take charge of your own mind, I don't care what age you are, when you start to make those different decisions, people will label you.
Yeah,
You're a rebel. You're a troublemaker. Why don't you just play along with the rest of the team? Whatever environment you're working in, when you start to go a different path, the majority fights against you because it's not the path that they've chosen. Because oftentimes the path that they chose was the convenient path, the easier path, the group path. Everybody's doing it this way, so I'm just going to do it this way. This must be the right way. Without investigating, without interrogating, without asking questions to figure out what is this really supposed to look like, you're just going to follow the crowd. There's actually an advertisement for the Marine Corps, and it's like this, when the road forks, and the only message on the advertisement is it's okay to go a different direction. And you've got crowds going this way, and you got one or two people going this way, choosing to be a Marine, right? What a powerful message, changing the direction. And it doesn't have to be about the military, about the Marine Corps. It has to be with why do you have to go the way everyone else is? When some of the most recognized people on earth are people who went a different direction, right? And they were judged. I mean, think about Marconi, who invented the radio. I mean, his friends put him in an insane asylum because he was talking about speaking to people without wires in the ether, and they thought he was nuts. He was hearing voices, so they put him in an insane asylum. And fortunately, there was a doctor that was able to have better foresight with an interview and allowed him to be released. And he was able to create actually probably the same technology we're using right now to talk all over the globe. But he went a different direction. Anyone else have any comments they want to share here?
Hey, Frank, I got one. This is a
Go,
little off
Sean.
topic. Just above this, he has something. I guess the devil says to him, I guess this is how he got interviewed. You have become my master because you have mastered all your fears. And I guess the question I have is it ever possible to master all your fears?
Hmm. Great question. Great question. Anybody have a comment?
um, I don't really, I think we can master them pretty good. And it could be, it's really hard to answer because with our DNA, sometimes there's something that can happen that will bring it up. but because you're so good at knowing how to master your fears, if you see something, you probably would know what to do with it right away.
Anyone
I don't know
else?
if I answered it properly
Thank
or
you, Len.
not.
Thank you, Len. I don't think it was an answer. It was more like an opinion, right? Um,
Probably,
I think
like usual.
I think it's definitely possible to master all your fears. Um, First, you have to recognize them, and then you have to analyze why is this causing me fear. I mean, I think about the most common fear that I'm aware of, based on things that I read, is public speaking.
Mm.
Right? Public speaking. Most people fear public speaking more than death. Okay, and can that be mastered? Absolutely. And it can be mastered by a methodical process of speaking in public. And you can join organizations such as Toastmasters or Business Networking International, which gives you opportunities to overcome that fear in a safe environment. And I share that because I had to overcome that fear. As a young boy, I told a story. If any of you saw my last video that I put out yesterday, it was about I was having a meeting with a bunch of real estate agents about the principle of persistence. And somehow that whole conversation turned into, okay, what's your magic power? And when I was in fifth grade, Sister Luke, who was a hard-nosed Catholic nun, who actually taught my mother in elementary school before she got to me, so that tells you how old she was. And I was speaking in the classroom one day, and she told me to be quiet. I was too loud, and I shouldn't be speaking so loudly. It's going to annoy other people. And so I stopped speaking. Not only loudly, just stopped speaking. And it wasn't until maybe age 35 or 40 where I actually started to use my voice to do things like what I'm doing right now. Right? When I was in high school, my intention was to be a radio broadcaster. Earl Nightingale, who was one of the most famous broadcasters back in the 50s and 60s, he was one of my earliest mentors. And I wanted to be like him.
Hmm.
But I let somebody else's input cause me not to pursue that. Now it's okay. I joined the Marines instead, and that was just as good. Gave me what I needed. But the end of the day is, if I had used, what if instead of telling me to be quiet, stop talking, you're too loud, what if the message was, you have a powerful voice, you should investigate how you can use that to your advantage and maybe make a living at it, right? Same circumstance, different message, right? So we all have fears. Sean, to be honest with you, we all have fears. A lot of us don't admit our fears, but we all have fears. And so if you have a fear, why not take charge of it? Why are you afraid of it? Go after it. See what you can do. Who's gotten over that fear before you? Can you follow their example? Earl Nightingale became one of the most famous radio television broadcasters back in that day by mimicking other broadcasters back in that day. He studied them. He did he did radio copy, advertisement copy. He would read anything he could on the radio. And he became one of the most powerful speakers in the industry at that time. Toby Beth, go for
So I don't agree. I don't think we can. Uh, I
it. Of
I
course you
don't
don't
think
agree.
I think we can overcome a large portion of our fears. However, I do believe that in overcoming our fears, we also learn the art of masking our fears,
Hmm, hmm,
right? So for me, big fear, I have very bad anxiety driving down the road. Driving down the road. I've learned to cope with it and mask the fear. Will I ever overcome that fear? No, probably not. And it's all related to childhood trauma, car accident, whatnot, what have you. But it also speaks to limiting beliefs. It speaks to making the conscious decision to consistently live in fear of something bad happening. It ties into what the devil puts into your head, such as in this book, you know. So the devil's asking Napoleon Hill or telling Napoleon Hill, well, you've already beat me. But I think the devil's lying to him because the devil knows what the devil knows, and the devil knows that I don't believe that he doesn't believe that you're going to be able to overcome every single solitary fear that you hold or have, but you will become quite adept at masking some of those.
I love that. I love the fact that you disagree. And I love the fact that we get to make the choice. We can mask it, which in other words means we adapt to it, right? Um, we can challenge it. You talked about trauma, so trauma causes certain reactions. And Thurman Fleet came out of the Army from World War One. And in World War One, we didn't call it post-traumatic stress syndrome or disorder. We called it shell shock or whatever other title they gave it over many years of war. And what Fleet discovered was that we can change in our mind. And it begins in our mind. Just like I said to the young lady I spoke to today, all your problem or fears are right here. And you get to choose, you get to control them, you get to reprogram your mind. And Thurman Fleet created the stick man, for those of you who are familiar with the stick man. And you've got the small head, which represents the conscious mind and the subconscious mind. And then you've got the body. So the mind controls the body. The body is an instrument of the mind. You've got antennae sticking out of the head, which are the receptors for all of our five senses. And so all of these think that this is a mind-body experience. And so you can overcome your fears by reprogramming them through autosuggestion, affirmations. I listen to two particular affirmations and meditation recordings every single day, at least once a day, most often twice a day, to reprogram my mind as to where I want to go. Right? So if you can identify what your fear is, you can create on your own an affirmation process or a meditation process that kind of starts to reprogram that. And so the challenge I would throw out there, Toby Beth, for what you shared is I'm becoming really adept at using Chat GPT AI. Give me 10 affirmations to overcome this experience. And then I like to read it in my own voice. I use GarageBand. I read it in my own voice. I put music to it, and then I listen to it every day. Right? So if you've identified something that you struggle with, whether it be a fear from a traumatic incident, being overweight, drinking too much alcohol, whatever you might be doing, just go to the resources that we have today and say, hey, give me 10 or 15 affirmations to overcome this. And then edit them the way you want to, record them. And if you don't know how to do that, I can certainly show you guys how to do that some other time. But you can control, you can reprogram your brain. Remember going all the way back to the conversation about the subconscious mind when we're young. It's being fed by other people. It's being fed by our environment and the experiences that we experienced during those years. We just have to reprogram the experiences. And that's been proven to be effective. It's used to this day dealing with post-traumatic stress for our military veterans and other folks, first responders who go through these types of situations. So we have, it goes back to, we have the ability to control our mind if we choose to do so. If we choose not to do so, that's on us. And if you need professional help to do that, then you go get that. And that's what's happening today with a lot of our veterans. They do need professional help. They can't figure out how to do it. It's part of the mission that I'm on with Napoleon Hill three sections of society: young adults, veterans, real estate agents. Real estate agents are starting to go the other direction because I just realized men in America suffer from a lot of pain points. So I'm thinking maybe I can help men be better men in today's society. There's lots of work for women helping women to become a major part, and I think it's wonderful. But the bottom line, regardless of where you want to put your efforts, we get to control our minds. We simply have to make the decision to do so and create a process to make it happen. Anyone else have any comments, questions, opinions?
Awesome, awesome, awesome suggestion about asking ChatGPT to give you a list of affirmations for a fear that you're looking to overcome or a challenge that you're looking to overcome. maybe you have paralysis of your mind, where it's like you've got all the tools, you know what to do, you just can't seem to get yourself forward because of some past trauma or traumas. So I'm not talking about anybody that I know personally. I think that's an excellent suggestion.
You know
And I love that.
what's really cool, Toby Beth. So I've just started doing these two meditations, affirmation recordings, probably over the last month or so, and I'm not always in a deep meditative state. I'm sitting out by the lanai. I've got my cup of coffee. I've done my morning routines, and now I'm listening to the stuff. And what I notice is that sometimes when I close my eyes as I'm listening to the recording, I'm seeing images. I'm seeing colors in my eyesight. I mean, my eyes are closed, but I'm seeing something happening. And I've caught myself many times say, I wonder what's happening right now.
Hmm.
Why am I seeing that spinning color of red? What's going on, right? And so I truly believe that that type of methodology has been proven to work and to help people.
Hmm.
Right? So the word very simply is we have the power to reprogram our mind. And that's what the devil's saying to Hill. You've
Mm-hmm.
learned how to master your mind. So because you've done that, you've learned how to do that, I can't control you anymore. Now, can Hill drift? Can he stop doing the stuff? Then all of a sudden he opens the door back up? Absolutely. Happens all the time. Right? So we have to be actually one of the messages that I remember reading or hearing recently was we have to keep a close guard on the door to our subconscious mind.
Hmm.
Because even though we may have gained control, if we leave the door open just a little bit, some of those fears can come back in. It's like a relapse, right? Go ahead, Len.
Well, I think you might have confused me a little bit here.
I reached my goal.
Did I hear correctly? Now I'm becoming one of these questions with the devil and Napoleon Hill. Did you say something about you see colors, you see red, or what was it that I heard?
Yeah, when I close my eyes, when I'm listening to the meditations
Oh, okay,
that I've
okay.
recorded,
Yeah,
I
I
see something, right?
okay.
It's almost like I'm
I
thinking,
see that all the time.
yeah, okay. So it's like motion,
But
something's
what
going
I
on.
but what I thought you were saying, you could see it like this way with your eyes open,
No, no,
which I do
no. Eyes have to
sometimes.
be
And I thought,
closed.
yay, somebody else is there that can do like I do.
No,
I'm not crazy.
no, Lynn, you are crazy.
That's right. I'm a rebel, remember?
Exactly. Anyone else have anything they want to add? All right,
Yeah,
so let's go ahead.
I,
Go ahead, Emmanuel.
yeah, I think really the conversation we are having really it made me reflect on many examples I have heard, especially about an environment which is encouraging by people who can motivate you. And for instance, I have heard about Les Brown, how he was talking about how
Yeah.
at his early age he was diagnosed as someone who was supposed to be in a special class, and he was taking that belief. He was not willing to speak or to read in the class. But one day a teacher challenged him, said, "Can you read what is written on the board?" And he said, "No, I cannot do because of my learning disability." And then the teacher told him, "No, someone's opinion should not be your reality. Go ahead and read." And he started challenging himself, reading, and until to the point he became a radio presenter, and now he's a public speaker, and he has really done great with his uh, ability to speak, which he was kind of discouraged at the beginning because of the environment he was growing in.
Yeah, Emmanuel, that's a wonderful example. And it kind of ties into the story I told about what happened to me when I was, 11 or 12 years old. How many times have you thought about doing something and someone gives their negative opinion about that purpose that you've chosen? Oh, you don't really want to do that. That's too hard. It's going to cost you too much money. It's too big of a risk. And we let other people's opinions direct our decisions. And Napoleon talks about, those opinions are worth exactly what you paid for them. Nothing. Because oftentimes people will give you opinions based on no experience, no knowledge of what it is that you're talking about. You have more knowledge than they do. But it's their fears that they're putting out there to protect you from making a bad decision, making a mistake. When your attitude becomes a mistake is not failure, it's simply a learning lesson. When you do something and it doesn't work, you don't ask yourself, what did I do wrong? You ask yourself, what do I need to do differently to make this work? That's what Thomas Edison did when he was creating the light bulb. He didn't say, what did he do wrong? He said, okay, that didn't work. What can I do differently? Go ahead, Bindu.
Yeah, actually, I was brought up in such an environment that I didn't have a voice to speak out. I couldn't express my opinions. So I knew it was not the way a kid should be brought up. And especially just because I was a girl child. And so when I got my baby girl, I made a decision that I will never let her be so. And as Lynn said, now she is known as the rebel in our family.
Yeah, so you've created a rebel. What a
Have
wonderful
fun with her.
What a
Just
wonderful
have
thing.
fun with her.
What's wrong with a little bit of excitement in our lives, right? If you say I can't do something, my dad actually, when I was actually he didn't tell me this until I was probably 4 or 5 years in the Marine Corps. He said, I always knew how to get you to do something I wanted you to do. And I said, well, how's that? He said, I just told you you couldn't do it. But see, I was that guy. If you push me up against the wall, I'm coming out fighting. It may take me a while, but I'm coming out fighting. Don't tell me I can't do something. And so we all have a different personality in how we deal with things. Unfortunately, it's been proven that over 90% of our communities globally, 98% of the people on Earth drift from circumstance to circumstance without really making a definite decision as to what they want their life to look like. What do you want out of life? I ask my coaching clients often, what do you want? Toby Beth, I asked you that one day. What do you want? And the look that I get, I call it the deer in the headlights look. They don't know what I mean. No, what do you want? What do you want your life to look like? I'm not saying this stuff is easy. I'm just saying we get to make a decision. And then the next question, after you identify what you want, you ask yourself, why do I want that? Because the why is what gives you the power to push through and to be persistent. And then the third question, am I willing to pay the price? Those three questions are the most powerful questions you can ask yourself. What do I want my life to look like? Why do I want it to be that way? And am I willing to pay the price? Because every decision has a price. And most people are not willing to pay the price. We're different. You know what? We're different because we're here in this room. We're different. We're looking for support. We're looking for conversation. We're looking for ideas. Other people are out there watching brain dead TV right now. Okay, maybe we're going to be doing that in about 10 minutes. But, at the end of the day, we're investing some part of our day, some part of our life to engage with people of a mutual mindset, working together in harmony, having differences of opinion, saying, okay, I get that, but think about this. And we're growing and we're learning. And once we become so arrogant that we think we know all the answers, we're done because you're no longer learning. Continual growth is the most important for us to maintain our youth and our ability to operate in society today. Go ahead, Toby Beth.
Hope. People come together like us in these masterminds, in these group settings, and they make a connection based on the one common thread. Everybody's looking for some hope. What that hope is and in what arena and what it's going to do for each person is as individual as the snowflakes that fall from the sky. Okay, maybe not in Florida, but we'll say raindrops.
It's raining right now.
Yeah, I stopped over this way. Um, it's people are looking for hope, and hope brings people together.
Hmm.
The
Yeah.
content's always going to be the content. That's just the pretense to bring the people together. And people like community, honest, non-judgmental.
Yeah. I mean, it's evidenced right here. And I've been doing these book studies for a couple of years now. And in fact, one of my friends who's staying with us this weekend, she's the reason we're moving to the villages. But she, Pat Presenti, has actually been in my book studies. And I was telling her a story about what we're doing right now with Outwitting the Devil and reading the different parts, and it's fun, right? But at the end of the day, if you walk away from these sessions, actually, she said to me, it's so cool because I told her I have people from Canada, from Florida, from England, from New Hampshire, from Ohio, and from Wisconsin. And she said, man, that is so cool. It used to be just a bunch of Florida people in here, and it's we're having an impact. And I want you guys to know I appreciate the fact that you show up here every Wednesday and you take part, you share your ideas. The book is nothing more than a launching pad for conversations. I prefer to have more conversations than I do reading. I think it's really important that we share those ideas. And I want you to know, and I've neglected to do this because I don't really want to use this for a sales perspective, but I want you to know in this room, you have one aspiring coach, Lynn. You have a master coach from the Ziegler organization, and you have me as a global certified coach from Napoleon Hill. There are people here in this room that if someone needs assistance, all you have to do is ask for it. That's all you have to do is ask for it. I know Toby Beth does. I know I do. We have free opportunities to just meet and have a discovery call and just talk about stuff. And at that point, you're not spending any money. You're just getting a little bit of information. And I'm here. You guys know what my mission is to inspire to positively impact the lives of others. That's it. If I get some money out of that because of the services or the products that we have that could help you, why wouldn't you take advantage of that? So that's why we're here. That's why this community is here. Lynn, you've got your hand up. Go.
Real fast because I see it's 8 o'clock. You made a comment and I thought, oh, you know what? This would be kind of fun. And I changed it right away. I put Canada right after my name. So if everybody were to change it and put where they're from, we would know where everybody's from. It was just a thought. Just a thought.
I love that.
That's a
Hey
great
Frank, do
idea.
me a favor. You did something a little while ago and it was like an Instagram, I don't know, TikTok thing. You went over your head like this.
Yeah, I saw that.
Did you see that? Did you
I
do that
saw
again?
no,
Do it
because I
again.
don't know what I did.
This. Up, up.
There it is. I love it. I was looking at it, wait a minute, I didn't push any buttons. Why did that happen? That's so cool. That's cool. Anyone have any final comments before we wrap things up for tonight? Not you, Len. Sean, you got anything for us, brother?
No, 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 I'm good.
All right. Bindu.
Yeah, I'm good.
Emmanuel, you've been quiet this evening.
Yeah, really, I was learning a lot and reflecting on the other books and the personalities I've followed in the past, and especially the issue of decision making. I found it depends on the each and every person's ability. Because I've heard some people who started at early age, like I've heard the story of Warren Buffett, started at age 10 already, starting to learn how to invest and save money. And you can see how that has been a blessing to him just from the early age. So some people discover their ability to make choices and decisions at early age, and some people along the way or very late after learning also from mistakes as well.
Yeah, I think the magic sauce when it comes to making decisions is persistence. Once you make the decision, stick with it and just keep doing what you know you need to do, even though you're not in the mood to do it. Right. And somebody like Warren Buffett, who learned at an early age, he stuck with it, and look what it's done for him. Absolutely. Toby Beth.
I'm just over here trying to figure out how you get the thing to do your screen to do that.
It's my magic power.
It's my magic. I've enjoyed tonight tremendously. I thank you all. I love you, Lynn. You're awesome. Happy Canada Day, by the way. Um, I enjoyed the discussion, and Frank, I appreciate the hell out of you. You just, if it weren't for you, I wouldn't be where I am today.
It's a mutual
All it
feeling.
takes is one phone call. Swallow that pride, pull up your courage, and go ask for help if you need it. It's okay.
Yeah, so I mentioned earlier today, I'm working on a project regarding the science of personal achievement, and one of the messages that I was preparing is, we're not meant to go this way alone, right? We don't have to go it alone, and I think that's a big struggle for a lot of men, specifically because we don't want to raise our hand and ask for help because that's not the manly thing to do, But at the end of the day, we're not meant to do this alone, so take help along the way. Brad. You can't do it either, brother. Look, watch. Here it comes.
No words needed. What I got. Thank you for all the information. I have 3 little rebels I'm dealing with at home. So all the information that everyone shared tonight was kind of meant for me. So I really appreciate it.
Awesome. Glad to hear it, Brad. Always here if you need me, brother. Yolena. Yolena, she took a nap.
Yes.
She's
No,
walking the dogs.
Yeah, I'm actually taking care of a dog right now. So
Okay. Do what you got to do, Yolena. I hope to see you next week, my friend.
all right.
Bindu, you get your hand up. Go for it.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask you whether you could please share us that auto suggestions you have recorded.
I will. I'm actually going. How do I do a snap? Well, I'm going to do it this way. I'm going to do a snapshot of everybody who's in the room, and I'm going to send by email the recordings that I use that I listen to every morning. You should get that sometime tomorrow, okay? We're good, guys. Have a great evening. I love you all. Thank you for showing up. I really appreciate you.
Thank you.
Thank you
Good
so much,
night.
Frank. Love you
Take
all.
care. Good night, guys.
Yeah.
You're just not doing it right, Toby Beth.
Yeah, there it is again. It's not working for us.
Have a good night, guys.